Well, welcome. I want to especially welcome our students, many of which are in the room, faculty. Some of the board members are here, which is wonderful. And then there are several guests of the program. So a big welcome to our first early spring. I take liberty of saying early spring because it was warm today. Our first event, a media panel discussion on mobile. My name is Bonnie Blake. I'm the program director for the master's degree in graphic communications, management, and technology, and divisional coordinating chair. Our division of media industry studies and design encompasses several programs. We have lots of information for you in the back of the room. I hope you'll take a look. But one thing I want to mention about our program is that it's a very innovative program. We like to invite leaders in the field, as our panelists are, to come and speak with you. And we've decided that this was an important topic, and we've had enormous interest, so we're glad that you're here. I would like to now stop for a moment. I'd like to introduce a wonderful person. It's our Dean Robert LAPINER, a big fan of mobile, and I'd like him to come up and welcome you, and if you can share some of your thoughts about the school. Thanks, Rob.
Good evening, everyone. Today's topic is extraordinarily important and timely. And if I had a full head of hair and wasn't wearing a tie, I might be a more credible interlocutor. But I can't do anything about this, and I like my tie. But clearly, the topic is extremely important, and it relates not just to the obvious issues, but it relates to whole categories of activity within our school and within our community. It relates to, obviously, the nature of marketing. It relates to public relations. It relates to the future of intellectual property. It relates very much to NYU's capacity as a global network university and how communications will occur. It relates to the future of publishing. It relates to the future of data mining. It relates to the future of teaching and learning. Not just because it's a battle of two important titans, because it speaks to new platforms for communication and interaction, all of which is fundamental to how we communicate as a species and how we function in our planet. So it's going to be a fascinating conversation, and I'm looking forward to learning a great deal, and I will keep my telephone on so I can figure out what app I need to keep up. Anyway. Welcome, and thank you.
Well, as you know, tonight's topic is Google versus Apple, who will win, and we've kind of bent that towards the mobile arena. 2 decades ago, the desktop publishing revolution brought us Apple to many of our homes and offices. The past decade was really all about the internet, and Google really helped us sift through just an ever-expanding amount of information. The current decade, we feel, will really be about the rise of mobile devices. Gartner research has predicted that more people will access the web via a mobile device than a tethered device as early as 2013, which is really right around the corner. Industry leaders have declared really this year that it's all about mobile. Apple's Chief Operating Officer, Tim Cook, just said last week, you should definitely look at Apple as a mobile device company during the Goldman Sachs Tech Conference. And at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, declared a mobile-first strategy, that they are going to decide to put their best engineers on mobile, and new products through the Google Labs would debut on mobile first. So they've really declared their intentions, and unfortunately the lawyers are getting very excited about overlap and various other things, so it will be a battle on multiple fronts. I'd like to introduce our panel today. We have AZEEM ANSAR from Business Development at Flurry. We have Luke Jensen, CEO of TigerSpike. Robert Samuels, Director of Mobile Products for the New York Times. Eric LITMAN, the Chairman and CEO of Medialets. And they're all working towards the anytime, anywhere, anything mantra, which I think will be the new paradigm for ads and media consumption for consumers and businesses. So could you each just give a brief explanation of your company or perhaps your personal experience in the mobile world? Would you like to start, AZEEM?
I'll go first. As mentioned earlier, I work on the business development team at a company called Flurry, which is very focused on providing tools and essentially means for developers who are new to these platforms like the iPhone and Android, which are new platforms to begin with, ways to measure exactly how people are interacting with the software that they're building. And then on top of that, how to further monetize and build actual businesses around the software that they're building. So there's a ton of developers out there that are new to the iPhone platform, and they'll come and they'll say, okay, I want to build an iPhone app, but how do I tell what type of people are engaging with my application, how often they're engaging, and how do I make money off of all this? How do I build a business that's measurable, that's quantifiable, and that I can actually iterate on top of? And Flurry really provides that. We have an analytics client that we offer developers of iPhone software and Android software that can leverage to measure, like I mentioned, how end users are interacting with applications, and then we provide other sort of a host of other capabilities for developers to actually monetize that on top of that and build a business, essentially.
Great. Luke?
Hi, I'm Luke JANSSEN. I started TigerSpike 7 years ago, and we've our positioning now is as a personal media company with a specialization in mobile. And we've ever since 2003 they've said it's the year of mobile. It was 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I think this year is. But we like to sort of think not necessarily of mobile, although mobile is the most personal device, but also you've got things like the iPad, which really will change a lot. Even things like PlayStation Portable, but also things like Facebook and desktop widgets. Those are all sort of personal, to you. And what we do is we help companies connect with either their customers or their staff. We did a big piece of work for PwC, for example, where they connected with all their employees. So if you want to form more meaningful digital connections, interactive connections with your customers or staff, we'll do that. And that can be done from as easily as an SMS campaign like what we do for Captain Morgan, or we can but a big enterprise solution for one of the carriers. I mean, most of our clients are carriers, and I think that the reason why this is a very sort of interesting talk is that the iPhone really did change a lot of things. Now probably 25% of our business is building iPhone apps, and that's there's really a hysteria around it, and there's a reason for that. And we've got AZEEM's sort of analytics in a lot of our apps as well. So it's I think there is I think that 2010 is the year, and that's why it's kind of an interesting talk.
Rob?
I come from a background of online and mobile. For about a decade prior to joining the Times, I was at AOL and responsible for product development and mobile there. Worked on all sorts of mobile products, email and IM there, as well as some of our content products. At the Times, focus on everything from IM to, from iPhone apps to our coming iPad app to our Kindle presence, e-readers, SMS, really anything that isn't tied to the print product or to the traditional website alternative reading experiences. I look at sort of holistically for the Times and have counterparts at some of the other Times company brands.
Eric? Let me throw out a quick question to the crowd, if you don't mind. Of the people who raised their hands that have smartphones, how many of you have downloaded the New York Times app to your phone? It's a good number, but it's not enough. So the homework assignment for the students in the crowd,
Easy.
help Rob hit his Christmas.
We need more than the 3.5 million up till now.
That's true. I'm blown away by the number of people in this room that have smartphones, and I think it's pretty obvious, right? These are a radically different type of mobile experience than anything that's ever existed before, and it's very different from even what it is that we know and have experienced on desktop computers. The iPhone changed everything, and it's not the end of mobile. Really, it's just the beginning of mobile, and that's where my company comes in. So we do for brands the exact same reasons, exact same things that got you excited enough to go out and buy a smartphone. We help them create very engaging, very creative, exceptionally fun ads that can do in mobile basically anything a mobile app can do. So ads that you can shake and tilt and rotate, physically interact with, scratch. We've been working on sniff in the lab, but for some reason they always come out smelling like cheek. Engineers are working on that product line. Now, and the way we do this is we go to publishers like Rob at the New York Times and mostly big media brands or developers that have built significant audiences mobile, Pandora, Fandango, lots of the really cool apps out there. We give them core technology to embed in their apps to deliver these ads, and then we go out into the brand community and we get to play all day, really. We get to go show really cool, fun, shakeable, tiltable, rotatable ads to people who've never been able to buy anything like that in mobile before, and it's like crack to them. Pardon the metaphor, the really poor simile here, but they see it, they love it, and our publishing partners like Rob at the New York Times see phenomenal return on this in terms of both the price that brands are willing to pay for the medium and the volume of campaigns that they see as a result of significantly differentiating from the little tiny banners that you see on screen in mobile right now. Our mission in mobile, frankly, is to help the entire industry move away from things like the online ad model, which is lots of advertisements on a page, a whole bunch of banners that don't have particularly high impact or meaning to them, to a single brand interaction, very high engagement creative, and opportunities to go to a much deeper level of relationship with the consumer than you could ever possibly do in a static image on a page. And we do this on iPhone, emerging on Android, BlackBerry, all the places where, frankly, all of us are now spending our time and attention outside of tethered computing devices.
Great. So leading into our first topic, I think we want to go out with, head up with innovation. Everybody wants to know what, is new and exciting out there. So with our first topic of innovation, Tim, what's our first question?
Sure. Does anyone have a comment that they thought was the most innovative thing Apple or Google did in the previous year? Anyone have a comment?
Yeah, I would argue it's a little bit beyond the year horizon, but it's the App Store. Right, it's the distribution model that changed absolutely everything in mobile. Anybody here worked in the mobile space at all? Spent any time doing anything kind of in mobile? Historically, people who've spent time in mobile wouldn't want to raise their hands because they're just downtrodden from having been beaten up by anybody that works at a carrier here. I need to make sure I'm careful. Hi, sorry. By having been beaten up by the carriers for so long in these relationships that just were absolutely untenable, right? You're
ending up with pennies on the dollar instead of the 70% rev share for a paid app.
Exactly. So while there'd been companies that had previously introduced things that were App Store-like, Apple was the first company at the platform level to introduce a model that, frankly, democratized the process for content creators. And it's still a walled garden, but the grass is nicer, and you can lay blankets and bring dogs along, and you have an opportunity, whether you're a student in school with a big idea or a big media brand, to participate in a level playing field to get your content out into the market. And frankly, that's what's changed everything in mobile, much more so than any of the specific interaction models of the iPhone, the device itself. It really has everything to do with the distribution model.
I tend to agree, but if you're talking about what's innovative, I don't think there was very much that was innovative about the Apple App Store. The model was out there with carriers and carrier decks. I think that what Apple's done, which isn't innovative, is just taking models, they did this with music, and just made it way better. You're absolutely right. I mean, when we used to create 30 different versions to go on 30 different kind of handset types, and Symbian had, Symbian 30, 60, and 90, so creating an application that would run on phones was a total nightmare for our development team, which is actually good for us because it means that we were one of the few companies that did that well. But when the iPhone came along, it was, you're right, there was one SDK, you could easily do things. I don't really think it is total democracy, because I think that there's still some developers scratching their heads about why theirs has taken twice as long as someone else's, or why theirs has just been pulled down because it's got bikinis on. And I think that consistently Apple has sort of have done that. Their innovation is making it so easy to do things. I mean, Matt Turnbull, who I work with, his wife had a Nokia N97. Can do pretty much all the things an iPhone can, but she never ever used it. And then she got the iPhone, and suddenly it's the weather, and it's this, and then it's 5 or 6 of these other apps, and that's I think that's why they're doing really well. But I don't know if usability can be an innovation, because it's really kind of what everyone should be doing. It's just that they do it, way better. And you can see even now when you look at something like the Trio, or if you try and use the App Store that BlackBerry have, it's rubbish. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. And it's just hard to use. And I think that's that's where I kind of agree with you, but potentially disagree that it's innovative, because I think it's just, just done better, which is great. I mean, if that's your model, take something that's really amazing, do it way better, and suddenly you win.
Regardless of whether it's innovation or just executing well, it's blown everybody away and advanced the business.
Yeah, totally. But the App Store model, even if you think about what the carriers used to take, between 30 and 50, some took 60% of all the downloads. Apple's still taking 30, you know what I mean? And Docomo only took 10 or less, and I think that's still too much.
30% though for creating the entire ecosystem.
Well, it means
relative to what the other environments were that Eric was speaking of.
I think they deserve it.
Yeah, when you talk about the early issues of fragmentation, right? Your company found success in being an expert at mobile and being able to build applications for multiple platforms and know the nuances, differences, and distinctions. The iPhone reined all that in. It gave us a common platform for development, for delivery. And now we look at, trying to bring this back on topic, we look at Android, right? And Android also has a very fluid development model, right? Developers who work on the Android platform really like a lot of the key characteristics about it that you just can't get on the Apple platform, relating to inter-process communication and multitasking and notifications, ability to manage all the propeller spinning sort of stuff that developers like. But Google's approach to the market is radically different in that they've gone and said, look, we're actually not going to impose any control, right? We're going to give our software to anyone who wants to adopt it, whether you're an OEM, you're a carrier, or anybody along the manufacturing value chain. Go have fun, be fruitful, and multiply your devices.
Well, now hearing that side of it, which operating system would you say was more friendlier in the innovative sense? Like, to create the craziest thing, which operating system is easier to do that?
It's a great question. Rob, you're the closest to the metal here on the content delivery side. What do you think?
It probably depends on what you're trying to do and what form factor. I think one of the things we'll see this year is the onslaught of Slate devices, and some of them running Android. So a Slate device, basically like an iPad, but outside of the iPhone, iPad operating system. So I don't think there's a simple answer to your question, not to dodge it.
If you were specifically trying to make a
I think you've got
GPS-enabled app, Apple's kind of reined in your ability to serve ads within a location-based service. So
sure, but you probably have to be where the market is, and depending on your brand, I would say you probably need to plan to be on both Android and iPhone, and probably a couple of the other platforms as well.
Well, for people thinking about development, would you recommend either or, just starting out?
There's probably a little bit more wealth of expertise and information on the web for the whole iPhone world, but I think there's going to be a lot of fantastic Android devices out there that people will want to be on as well.
Yeah.
If you're really techie, Android is a really nice platform. But I mean, if you take augmented reality as an example, which is sort of one of the more innovative things at the cutting edge of what's happening. I mean, Apple's.
Wait, does everybody actually know what augmented reality is? Maybe we could preface
defining
that.
it was the next question.
It has a lot of meanings. Basically, it takes your reality, which you're sitting in now, and augments it. And what that means
that sounds appropriate for a college campus.
Exactly. And what that means for an example that I like to use that we were pitching to one of our clients is you'll open up the camera on your iPhone and you'll point it at, say, a Heineken bottle, and then you'll get a footballer who appears, and runs around your Heineken bottle kicking a ball around, or a dancing fairy, or a lot of people are using it as looking at buildings and seeing the history of the building or what it looked like 10 years ago. And so it overlays extra little pieces of reality around your phone, and some of the more obvious ones are you'll look down a street and it'll say which restaurants have deals on and that sort of thing. And to do that on iPhone isn't possible because they haven't released the camera APIs, but they have on Android. So the companies that are doing that, I think at the forefront of technology using the Android platform because it's more flexible. But it's a bit of a double-edged sword because I think that people actually want to be constrained a little bit. And if you're new to programming, using the iPhone SDK is a really good idea because it's really nice and boxed, and there's a nice ecosystem you can exist in, and going to the App Store is nice and it's fun. You don't have to be a dork to do it. And if you want to buy something, it comes off your iTunes. You don't have to access something else. And it's just, I mean, Matt's wife can do it, and she would never be able to do anything with Android if it got a little bit too complicated. And that's kind of the test, is that when the novice can do something, that's when it's going to win.
Those constraints, I think, help foster the great growth that we've seen with iTunes and the iPhone. But I think some people in some apps are, want to reach beyond that probably at this point in time. So again, I think there's probably room for both.
And those distinctions are really emblematic of the two businesses, right? Google professes the notion of openness and of scalable platforms where all they do is they provide the little bits and pieces, the plumbing at the center of it, and people in the community build the value on top of that plumbing, whereas Apple is very control-oriented, very driven towards a specific mission or a specific vision of what they think a product should be, what they think an experience should be. And again, coming back to the theme of our dialogue here, it's not really clear whether there necessarily is a winner between the two of those, right? And certainly the market has shown that the two can coexist, but there's a lot of overlap between the two businesses, and this is where the battle lines are really being drawn now, where Apple has recognized that there is an immense amount of value to be captured on the advertising side. Obviously, that's Google's core business. Google recognizes that, and this is nothing new for them, that they need access to inventory. So inventory in the ad business is just more people looking at things. So they've built an operating system as both a distribution/inventory point and as a control point. And that's where these guys are really just sort of getting into a cage and fighting it out now.
You're seeing a whole bunch of interaction. Are you seeing more, like, how is Android comparing to Apple? Is it way more? Will it be way more? Like, what are they looking like they're doing?
Right. So it's funny, whenever there's a new device or a new release of a device that's